Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to get into a few of my kind of favorite, very basic core movements. One is shin box to knees, where we're working on one aspect of getting up and down off the floor, but it's a really nice glute stretch and glute activator. The other one is tall kneel lean backs, great for anterior chain, quads, front of the hips, getting into the lower front core. And then we'll get into hip drive, working again through that posterior core work. With the shin box to knees and the tall kneel lean back, if you have any kind of knee issues, I want you to go very gentle with it. Make sure that you're not moving into painful positions. If it is painful, then I strongly encourage you to schedule a consultation with me so we can figure out how to navigate what your body's doing so that you can get moving better, feeling better, moving better. So with all that, let's get started. So we're going to start on our back, getting into our crocodile breath. Anytime I want to do core work, I want to start with breath, because breath is going to be really the origination point of our intrinsic core. And if we don't have good access to our breath, then that's going to create compensations in how we're working through our utilizing our core. So we're going to start with our nice big C shapes with our hands, thumbs going in, feeling into the low back musculature, index fingers wrapping around to the abdominal musculature. The hands are going to be placed below the rib cage and above the hip bone in that nice meaty section of the abdominal wall. And I want to lightly squeeze the hands in so that we can create some resistance for the inhale phase of our breath. I want to think of that inhale like we're filling up a balloon. And so I want to feel that balloon expanding in all directions through that abdominal core. So we're going to take a nice inhale breath into the nose. Feel that abdominal wall expand out like a balloon, and then exhale, drawing navel into the spine. As you exhale, let your hands cinch down a little bit so that you create some resistance for that next inhale. And as you inhale, I want that breath to not only move forward into the belly, but also into that low back and out through the side. So you should feel pressure pushing into the thumbs and out into the palms through the side of the body. And let's make these breaths nice and slow, somewhere between a 5 and 8 second count inhale and a 5 to 8 second count exhale. Nice and slow in both directions. And notice if there's a difference between how this breath fills up the right side of your body compared to the left side of your body. Does one side expand a little bit more? Does the other side not expand quite as much? Once we get a good 8, 10 breaths in, we're going to slowly move into our shin box position. So I'm coming into my left side shin box. My left knee is forward. My left hand is coming down outside of the hip, grounding the palm down. I want to spiral that elbow pit so it's facing away from the body. Feel that shoulder blade pack down and back. Nice tall spine. Continuing to inhale into that nice crocodile or balloon breath. Exhale, drawing the navel into the spine. And we're going to start with some knee openers. As we inhale, feel that expansion. As we exhale, drawing navel in, we're going to lift that back knee up towards the ceiling nice and slow. Inhale, we're bringing it back down. And I want to continue with 5 to 8 second count breath with the movement. So I want my movement to take 5 to 8 seconds on my slow inhale and 5 to 8 seconds on the exhale. We'll do 5 reps on this side. And then we will very slowly windshield wiper transition across to the other side. Again, palm is down, spiraled elbow, packed shoulder, tall spine. Filling up that inhale, that abdominal with the inhale breath, exhale, nice slow opening. Notice if one hip feels a little tighter, a little stiffer. Are you able to open up or lift it as high? As I'm lifting up that knee, I want to make sure that I'm staying pretty still and stable through the upper body and shoulders. I don't want to open up I'm moving my left knee. I don't want to open up my left shoulder as I'm lifting in order to clear space. I want to maintain this position. I'm seeing how much can I isolate that hip without moving the upper body. Again, once we get 5 reps, we're going to shift back to the other side. Again, grounded palm, elbow spirals out, shoulders packed, nice tall spine. Now with our inhale breath, as we inhale, we're going to allow the weight of that breath to move down into that back hip. Feel that weight, drop that hip towards the floor. And then as we exhale, navel to spine, that hip is lifting up off the floor, moving forward, and we're scooping that tailbone forward. We're trying to reach that tailbone as far forward as we can. See if you feel that stretch through the front of the thigh. See if you can feel some tightening and contracting of the glute in the back. Inhale, fills that bowl of the pelvis up. Exhale, slow scoop and lift. Again, want to maintain that 5 to 8 second count in both directions. By going slow, we get to be smooth. And when we produce smooth and we train smooth, then we get to go fast. But if we don't have smooth and we go fast, we're going to be going fast and it's not going to be smooth. It's going to be clunky. And that's where going fast can cause problems. Once we get 5 reps on this side, nice slow transition back to the other side. Again, grounded palm, spiraled elbow, packed shoulder, tall spine. Inhale into that back hip. Feel that weight of that breath. Drop the hip to the floor. Exhale. Hip lifts up. Hip moves forward and then scooping actively into it. See if you can feel that stretch through the front of the thigh, active glute in the back. Notice, how does this hip feel compared to the other side? Is it tighter, more restricted? Do you have more or less range of motion? My left hip is my chronically tight hip, so it feels tighter. I have a little less mobility in it than I do on the right side. Although the more I do these movements, I get better balance through the hips and it generally lasts through the day. Again, once we get 5 reps, we're going to slowly transition back to the other side. Rounded palm, spiraled elbow, packed shoulder. We're doing that same breath into that back hip. Exhale, comes forward and scoops, but now we're going to add our reach and rotation. So I'm scooping actively. I want to feel that back hip lock in, and then I'm reaching straight through the arrow of my knee, seeing how far can I reach my fingertips. And as I reach, I want to spread my hands wide, spiral my palm up, and then try to extend that elbow fully. And then as I inhale, I'm bringing it all the way back. I want to think of this as a big winding and unwinding. So as I exhale, scoop, As I reach, I am winding up my core. And as I inhale, it's unwinding. It's bringing me all the way back into that back hip pocket. Exhale, I lock in that hip as I wind up. And you can imagine from the hips through the low back up into the shoulders, we're getting a nice big fascial stretch. Again, winding through all that fascial matrix. After we get 5 reps on that side, slow transition across to the other side. Again, grounded palm, spiraled elbow, packed shoulder. Inhale into that back hip. Exhale, hip lifts up, moves forward, scoops, and then spiral, palm spread, spirals up to the ceiling, and active extension of that elbow. Inhale, brings it all the way back into that back pocket. Exhale, lock that hip in, wind and unwind. Now notice, how does this side feel compared to the other side? Since I have a tighter left hip, it's also tighter as I add in that reach and rotation. Oh, so much more in the low back, even up into the shoulders. Feels good and juicy, but it's definitely a little stiffer and tighter. I have less mobility on this side than I do on the other side. So it's an area that I'm constantly want to work on feeding some movement into in order to help maintain. Once we get our 5 reps, I'm going to slow transition back. Again, at this point, though, we're actually going to take that back hand off the floor. Bringing that arm up over our head. Forearm is going to be flush with the ceiling. We're still inhaling into that back hip. Exhale, that hip lifts forward and scoops. But now we're lifting that elbow up like we're trying to touch the ceiling. Inhale, bringing it all the way back. So this is still winding and unwinding, but we're winding and unwinding in a different direction, moving up towards the ceiling. Seeing how high can I get that elbow. Inhale, I want to feel it all the way back into that back hip pocket. As we exhale, scoop and lift through that elbow, you can also start to downwardly press through the same side hip. So my left elbow is reaching up. I'm kind of rooting, grounding down through the hip. I want to see how long can I get from the floor through the elbow. And I really want to see if I can feel it kind of through abdominal viscera and a little bit through the side body, side of the ab and outside of the shoulder. Can I feel all of that nice lengthening on the exhale? Inhale as I bring it all the way back to the floor. Again, once we get to 5 reps, nice slow transition to the other side, bringing that arm up. You may notice that on one side, as you bring that arm up, it's really hard to just maintain this position. Again, that's going to be a postural imbalance. And if that's the case, as long as it's not painful, this is a position that we want to work on frequently because that postural imbalance is showing up in a lot of other areas of your life. So arm is up overhead, forearm flush with the ceiling. Inhale into that back hip pocket. Exhale as we lift, scoop, and then reach that elbow like you're trying to touch the ceiling with the elbow. Inhale, feels that back hip pocket up. Exhale, lift, scoop as we lock in that back hip first, and then nice reach. And then we can start to add in that as we reach with the elbow, we're also downwardly grounding through that same side hip. I want to make sure we don't lose the back hip scoop. I want this back stretch, the stretch in the front of this hip. I want to feel that contraction in the glute as much as I can, as I'm also downwardly working through this opposite hip and up through the elbow. It can be a lot, and it can take a few, probably weeks, if not months, to really organize this well into the body. Once we get 5, slow transition back to the other side. Now we get into our folds. So with folds, I'm still doing that same winding and unwinding breath. I want to bring that breath into that back bowl. Exhale, feel that hip lift and scoop forward. But now I want to keep my shoulders square with my shins, and I want my hands square with my shoulders. So as I exhale, scoop, I'm going to continue to exhale as I slide hands forward, but I want to maintain square hands with my shoulders and square with my shins. So I do not want one hand reaching a little bit further than the other hand, because that's not square. I want hands reaching even. Inhale, we bring it all the way back up, allowing that breath into that back hip. And then exhale, scoop, feel that lock in that back hip first. Continue to exhale as we reach a little further. Something I want to avoid on this is as I'm reaching, I don't want to drop my head and my chest straight down to the floor where I get this rounded upper back. I want to maintain a nice long spine, letting the hands just slide forward. And I'm not overly concerned with how far we're reaching right now. We're not forcing it, and we're not pushing past our limits. We're just going where our body allows us to, and kind of getting the sensation and feeling, getting a better awareness of what it feels like. Once we get 5 reps, we'll switch to the other side. And I want to get into that same position. Square shoulders, square shin, hands and shoulders are square together. Inhale into that back hip. Exhale, hip lifts off the floor, reaches forward, actively scoops, and then continuing to reach as we exhale through the shins. Inhale brings it all the way back. Now I want to notice, am I able to reach as far forward on this side as I am on the other side? Do I feel is it harder to stay square on one side compared to the other side? My left hip is tighter, more restricted. When I get into this side of my shin box, my body tends to want to lean to the right. So it's a little bit more work and effort to stay square on this side. And that's just always true for me based on injury history. 5 knee surgeries on the right knee and 1 on the left knee, along with concussions and whiplashes and all kinds of other stuff. But my goal is to maintain as much balance as I can. And if I don't work on this, then it gets a lot worse. All right, so once we get 5 on that side, now we're going to start to move back and forth. So and I'm going to be, as we go back and forth, I'm less concerned about maintaining that square shoulders and square shin. At this point, we get to explore. I can reach straight through the knee. I can reach forward of the knee. I can reach behind the knee. I can even go against the grain, reaching across to the other side. We can also, we can add reaching up as options as well, but we're working folds, so I won't throw that in right now. As we get a nice exhale, reach to one side, slow inhale coming back, and we're just going to transfer all the way across to the other side and doing the exact same thing. Now, as I inhale, I want to continue to fill up that back bowl. Transition across to the other side. I want to feel that back hip bowl down on this side, and then exhale as I scoop, locking it into my fold. And then as I inhale coming back, I'm still filling up that back bowl. As I slow transition across to the other side, that back pelvic bowl is still down. Exhale as I scoop. and fold. And we're going to do a good 10, even up to 20 reps of these going back and forth, nice and slow. Once we get 3, maybe 5 reps going side to side, then we're going to start to open up our shin box angle. So as I'm coming to this side, I'm going to let my back leg slide open a little bit. I still want to feel that active scoop in that back hip as much as I can. The more I open up this shin box, this is going to get more limited in its mobility, but I still want to move into it lightly as I get into my fold. Inhale, I'm still feeling that back hip drop to the floor as I slide my leg back in. Back hip is down as I slide that knee out, and exhale, scoop and fold. And with each one, we're going to open that back leg up a little bit more and a little bit more. And one of the things I love about this slow change in position is it gives me a lot more feedback of some mobility in this back hip. It also changes the fiber orientation of what I'm stretching in the glute of that front hip. So this is absolutely one of my favorite movements, and I do it every day. And I encourage, this is a great one to do first thing in the morning. Really helps to prepare the hips and the spine for walking, moving, lifting, carrying, all the stuff. We're going to keep opening that back leg until we get more and more close to what we would consider a yoga class pigeon pose. Although I am not overly concerned about achieving the end range of that pose. I'm more concerned with how far can you get into it comfortably, safely, non-forcefully, non-painfully. All right, so now we're going to get into our first kind of more core specific. This is shin box to knees. Now, anytime I do shin box to knees, since I have a history of knee issues, I want to make sure that my knees feel safe because I'm literally coming up from, going to be rolling onto my knees. And if they're not, I haven't really prepped them well enough, it can be a little uncomfortable and I don't want to hurt myself. So I like to use my hands. So shin box to knees, we're pushing through the floor through both knees to lift hips up. But I like to have a hand in the back and a hand in the front to help guide. So I'm really using my hands more than my hips. And I'm just seeing, how does it feel getting up on the knees? Can I even get into this position? Once I'm in this position, we can scoop that tailbone forward and get a nice juicy stretch. And then using the hands to ease the body back down, making sure that it's not painful. And then we're going to come across, transfer to the other side and do the exact same thing. One hand behind, one hand in front, making sure that we're grooving into the hip, into the knees okay. Scoop, feel that nice juicy stretch. And then the hands come down to support. Now, if you feel if the hips are relatively tight and this is a difficult movement to do, you can continue to use your hands. Use your hands as little as you need, but it's okay in order to groove the neurology of the movement. The only way we're going to gain this movement, if you can't do it, is to do it. And sometimes the only way you're going to be able to do it is to use your hands. So your hands are okay. The goal, though, is to get to where you can drive through both legs without the hands. and then be able to come back down under control to the floor, and then be able to do that on both sides. So once we're at this point, we're driving through both legs, pressing into the floor. I want to scoop that tailbone forward at the top so I feel that nice stretch. And then on the way down, I am not just dropping straight down to the floor. I want to reach back with my tailbone and see how far can I get my hip to travel back before I actually touch the floor. So, and then once I tap the floor, I want to drive through the knees and pop right back up. I'm inhaling as I reach back. The more you're able to reach back and descend slowly, you should feel a nice stretch in that on one side of the glute. We can also start to create a little bit of a counter reach through the arms. The more I counter reach, reaching forward is going to allow me to get a little bit more reach back through that hip. And it might also accentuate that stretch in the back of the hip. And then we'll come across, after we do about 5 on one side, we're going to come to the other side and do the same thing. Get a nice drive through the top, scoop at the pelvis, feel that nice juicy stretch. And then I don't want to drop down. I definitely don't want to plop. If you find that as you're coming down, you plop, you can't control that last inch or two from the floor. Again, that's where I want to use my hands, ease down so that I can control neurologically, feel that movement and be able to come back up smooth. I want smooth. Plop is not smooth. Again, we can also start to use our hands to counter reach. I'm trying to reach back. I'm not trying to go straight down. I want to feel as much stretch in that glute before I hit the ground as I can. Once we get 5 on this side, actually started on the opposite side that time. I'm going to go through a little bit of, so one of the reasons I love shin box to knees is this is actually a way of getting up off the floor. So we can turn this into a next level of a movement where we are spiraling through that knee from the floor, coming up into a tall half kneel. And this can take us straight into standing. That was not a very clean stand. And then we can also come back to the floor where I want to be able to balance through this knee, spiral this back leg, knee drops right behind the heel, and I'm coming right back down to the floor. This is a way of getting up and down off the floor. It's actually 2 ways of getting up and down off the floor because we can do it on the left side and we can do it on the right side. The more ways you have to get up and down off the floor is going to be something that's going to matter in your life, especially as you get older. The longer we can maintain getting up and down off the floor in a variety of ways will ensure good core stability, good joint mobility, especially if we're doing it in ways that are not painful. All right, so now we're going to get into our quadruped position, getting on hands and knees, spreading fingers nice and wide, grounding palms, extending elbows actively without locking them. I also want to tuck the toes in the back. And we're going to start with just a little bit of light foot mobility. So inhale as we rock forward, exhale, we're rocking back, and I want to feel the weight of the hips specifically load into the big toe, ball of the big toe joint and into the arches of the feet. Inhale, going to bring us back forward. Exhale, feel the weight sink hips to heels. Now, what'll help get even deeper into the feet is as you sink back, if you imagine you have a tail and you're sticking that tail up to the ceiling as you sit back, you should feel a little bit more load at that big toe joint or arch of the foot. And as you're doing this, notice how does that right big toe feel compared to the left big toe. Is one side stiffer, achier, less mobile? Is it painful? If it's painful, then I want to make sure you're backing off a little bit. Don't push into pain. I don't want any kind of pain that triggers at a level 3 or above on a scale of 0 to 10. Levels 1 and 2 are slight discomfort, not active pain, especially not that tightening pirate look face where you do touch something and all of a sudden your body tenses up. So I want to be able to move through this without triggering that pain. Once we get a good 5, even up to 10 reps on this, we're going to turn our heels out so that you're tucked underneath more all the way out to the pinky toe if you can. Doing all the same stuff. Inhale forward, exhale, hips to heels. Again, imagine you have that tail and you're sticking that tail up as you sink back. Notice, how does this feel on the right side compared to the left side? Is it tighter on one side, more restricted on one side? What you'll probably notice is that there's some connections between the tightnesses that you feel in one hip and tightnesses that you feel in one foot, as well as in a shoulder and a neck. Now, on the next one, as we sink back hips to heels, I want to sink into light tension, not heavy tension. And we're now going to roll the heels in and out, basically doing windshield wipers, so that you're feeling that load all the way out to the pinkies. And then you're loading all the way back into the big toe. Since we're rolling onto that big toe, you might notice a different level of tightness, tension, restriction differences, right side compared to left side. And that big toe joint is relevant. If you feel a difference that is significant on the right side compared to the left side, that is a big deal. I want to notice that, and I want it to be something that we're working on regularly in order to maintain as much balance through the toes as possible. Okay, we're going to go ahead and let the toes go untucked. And we're going to do the same slow rock back, hips to heels, still sticking that tail up to the ceiling. How close can you get your hips to your heels? Are you able to touch? Inhales bringing us all the way forward. If you're not able to touch, how close can you reach? And what seems to be the limiting factor? If you can touch with one hip and not the other, that might indicate some knee inflammation. So this can be a useful assessment. I also want to notice, how does this feel on the front of the ankles? Are your ankles staying flat to the floor, or is there space? Does it feel tight through the front of the shins? That can be an indication of some things we want to work on mobility wise as well. And if you're able to get hips all the way to the heels, can we start to let our hands slide back till we get to a full deep kneel, and then moving all the way back forward. And if you're not able to get into this deep kneel, you're just moving into it as close as you can and coming back forward. If you're able to get into it, then we can come into that deep kneel sit and come right back out to hands. So let's come back to our starting point now of palms grounded, elbows extended, toes tucked. And we're going to get back to our breath, breathing into our belly, allowing that belly to open up to the floor. And we're going to work some pelvic tilts with this. So as that belly opens up to the floor, allow your pelvis to turn down to the floor so that you get a nice sway in the low back, as long as it's not painful. Belly's kind of opening up to the floor. As we exhale, we're scooping. We're drawing that navel in and scooping. I don't want it to go into the upper back. We're not doing a cat-cow just yet. We're just working pelvic tilts. So I want to feel this moving into the low back. Inhale, belly opens up to the floor. Exhale, belly button is lifting up to the ceiling as we actively scoop. Can you feel that stretch in the low back? Do you feel it more when you move your hips forward? Do you feel it more as you scoop? And how tight, how tense is it? Is it tighter on the right side of the spine or the left side? Is it tighter as you go forward or as you go back? These are all relevant assessment points, especially if you tend to have some low back tightness or pain. Now, we're going to let this start to move up the rest of our spine, but I want to imagine your spine is a whip, and the tailbone, our pelvis, is the handle of the whip. That's what we just started working, moving that tailbone back and forth. So now we're going to continue to move that tailbone, but I want to feel that wave move up the spine, up to the head like a whip, so that each vertebrae moves one at a time and the head moves last. So as we inhale, belly's opening up to the floor. That movement moves up to the chest as it reaches the sternum. The sternum can drop and the head comes up last. As we exhale, scoop. That movement moves up the spine. As it gets up to the shoulders, you can push. You can even slightly spiral those elbow pits towards each other so that the shoulder blades roll up. Then it goes over the top of the head, and we're trying to touch our forehead to this, our tailbone at this imaginary point right in the middle. And then inhale, pulls that tailbone or the pelvis to the floor. Each vertebrae moves one at a time, gets to the chest, sternum drops, head comes up last. Exhale, scoop. Can you feel that segmental movement, one vertebrae at a time, originating from the tailbone and the head coming up last? And as you're going through that nice wave, notice if there's particular segment levels that feel a little tighter, a little more restricted. Maybe it's difficult to get them to move one at a time. Maybe you have several segments that move all at once. If so, then try to slow down into that space. See if you can isolate those joints a little bit to get them to move a little bit. But also, I don't want to force it right now. That's just going to be an indication of where there's some immobility in the spine, and that's going to be a big deal. All right. Now we're going to get into our tall kneel, working up to our lean backs. So I got toes untucked, and I'm coming all the way up onto knees. Now, if your knees are sensitive, you can put a pad or a blanket underneath the knees. I want knees to be about hip width apart, and feet should stay hip width with the knees. We're coming back, and we're going to work our pelvic tilts with our breath again. So nice inhale into the belly, feel that pelvis tilt, nice big sway in the back. Exhale, navel comes up to the spine as we scoop. Now, as we scoop in this position, you may get some stretch through the front of the thighs, and hopefully you're feeling some contraction in the glute. Inhale, moving it back forward, big sway in the back. As we get loose and limber here, we're going to start to add to it. So as we inhale, pelvis is tilting forward, tailbone is reaching back. We can continue to inhale and let that tailbone reach and see if you were able, let me back up just a little bit. If you were able to get your hips to your heels, we should be able to find that same position through that inhale, reaching that tailbone back. If you were not, then you're going to get limited in your range of motion. So you're going to have to find how deep can you go comfortably without forcing it. So I don't want to push past whatever point starts to feel a little tight and restricted. I don't want to go to pain. Very, very important. So you might be limited in what we're doing at this higher level. So stepping back into it. So inhale, tailbone reaches to the heels, getting as low as you're able to go comfortably. Once you get to that bottom point, we're now exhaling and scooping. Feel that tailbone scoop forward, and it's slowly going to lift you up. Inhale, turns that pelvis back as we reach. Inhale, scoops. And if you watch, get into this movement slowly, and you see what's happening through the rest of the spine, we're getting back into that spinal wave. Same one we just worked on in our quadruped. Now, again, if you're not able to get all the way to the hips or to the heels, we can do the same position or same movement. It does not need to be as deep or as low. We can work at a higher level. But notice the wave in the spine. That's what I want to try to find, is that nice wave-like action through the spine. We can do, well, now that we got a few of those and we feel what our range of motion is, going hips to heels from our tall kneel. On the neck, let's do one more because I want to lock in the hips. So as we drop down, exhale, active scoop. Keep that active scoop as you get to the top. And I want you to stop at this very top point where the hips are still scooped and you can feel that core locked in. I don't want to get inhale, pelvis tilted forward. I want to maintain pelvis scooped actively, rib is down, core is engaged. With that action is now where we can get into our tall kneel lean back. So from here, pelvis scooped, rib is down, core is engaged. We can very slowly see how much we can lean back. We're exhaling as we lean back. Inhale as we come back forward. This is going to place a good strain and stress on the quads, front of the hips, all the way down to the knees. I don't want to lose control. So I have to make sure that I am under control, not painful, and I'm very slowly seeing how far I can lean back. And I don't want to lose my core on this. As I lean back, I don't want to start to let my back arch and that rib cage start to stick out. I want to feel that scoop, maintain that scoop as we lean. We can do this with our toes untucked. We can also do this with toes tucked. Now, toes tucked is going to put more stress on the big toe joint and some of the other toes. So we may not be able to go as far. So we start slow and easy. Nice scoop. Exhale as we lean back. Inhale as we come back forward. This is a great little core exercise. It's really helpful as far as building up our deep resting squat. So once we get 5 or so, if you haven't done these before, there's a good chance you're going to be a little bit sore in your quads. All right. Now we're going to come down to the floor, all the way onto our back, placing our feet flat to the floor. Want feet to be about hip width apart. Knees are hip width apart as well. We're going to do this very similar movements that we just did, but we're now doing it on the floor. We're going to start with a breath in those same pelvic tilts. So inhale, breath. Goes into the belly. Belly reaches up to the ceiling as the pelvis tilts forward. We should get some nice sway in the back. Should be enough that you can kind of slide a hand underneath it. Exhale, we're scooping. And you can imagine that belly button is a thumb that is pressing your spine straight down into the floor. And then inhale, that belly's lifting back up to the ceiling, pulling the pelvis forward. Exhale, belly's pushing that spine down into the floor. After we get a good 5 breaths with just the pelvic tilt. We are now going to start to let the pelvis scoop and lift, taking it off the floor. So as we exhale, belly goes into the floor. We're going to continue to scoop. And now we have to be engaged through our feet. We're still exhaling, scooping our tailbone up to the ceiling until we feel that nice stretch through the front of the hips. And then on the inhale, we're slowly letting each vertebrae down back to the floor. So let me back up just a little bit because I forgot to say this part. I want to feel as we exhale, scoop. I want to try to peel each vertebrae one at a time off the floor. So as I exhale, scoop, sacrum comes up, but my L5 is still touching. I continue to go, L5 lifts, L4 is touching, L4 lifts, L3 is touching, and so on, moving up the spine. When I place everything back down, I want the same thing. Can I touch L1, then my L2, then my L3, then my L4, L5, and then sacrum. Then I can continue to that inhale where it lifts everything up, and then exhale, can I feel sacrum, L5, L4, L3, and so on. Now, on the way down, you're going to probably find that around L3 through L5 is really difficult to segmentally touch the floor. And that's natural and normal because we have a natural lordotic curve that kind of makes that position that difficult. But if you build good pelvic mobility with good lumbar spinal mobility and good core control, you should be able to get some level of that lower lumbar mobility to be able to touch the floor. So after we get about 5 to 10 nice, good hip drives, where we're up at the top with that scoop, we're going to stay at this top position, and we're going to come back into that same breath with pelvic tilts. So on that inhale, filling up the belly, pelvis is tilting forward to the ceiling, getting that same sway in the low back, and then exhale, scooping as we draw that navel in. I want to feel that stretch accentuate through the front of the hip. We should feel the glutes tighten up and contract even more in the rear. And we're going to do 5 up to 10 breaths. Now, as we inhale, don't let your hips drop. Try to keep the hips at the same level, whether on the inhale and the exhale. And you'll probably notice by about 5 breaths, if you're doing this well, getting that good scoop and the rib cage is drawing down and core is engaged, that your glutes are going to start to light up on fire. Once we get 5 to 10, we can slowly let those hips back down to the floor. And we're going to finish with some just nice, simple baby roll stretch. So letting the legs go straight out. Toes are straight up to the ceiling. We're lightly pressing down into the floor with the heels with about 5 to 10 pounds of pressure. Arms are coming up to a nice big Y position. Nice inhale into that crocodile breath. Exhale, we're going to lift our head, reach across with the left hand, and try to match fingertip to fingertip with the right hand. Keep that right hand open and spread. Inhale, bringing it back down slow and under control. Exhale, head lifts as we reach to match right hand to left hand. Inhale as we come back. Pay attention to your feet. As you reach to the right, I don't want your toes turning with. They need to stay straight up to the ceiling. 5 to 10 pounds of pressure, light pressure, pushing down into the floor. It's going to create counter resistance to our upper body rotation and reach. Should draw that stretch and mobility out a little bit. It should feel good and juicy, not painful. If this is painful, then you need to back off, get easier on it, or stop altogether and schedule a consultation. Notice if it's how this feels reaching with the left hand compared to reaching with the right hand. When I reach with my right hand, it's tighter and I'm not able to go as smooth. I have to work a little bit harder. When I reach with my left hand, it's easier. So again, those are little imbalances in gait, in my movement, in my posture. I want to be present with those things so that I can work on them regularly. Last movement we'll do is we're going to do the same thing, but reaching with the feet. So back to our starting point, arms in a nice Y position. We're going to lift the leg, keep it elevated high, reaching as if we're reaching up onto a shelf or a couch. Point the toes, let those toes pull your hip and slowly pull the shoulder blade off the floor, but try to maintain some contact with the back of the hand. Inhale as we bring it back to the floor. Exhale as we lift and reach to the other side. Again, nice slow reach through those toes. Let it pull the hip. Let it slowly pull the shoulder off the floor, but the hand stays in contact with the ground. As you're reaching and extending with those toes, you can also counter reach through your fingertips, letting those fingers, especially if I'm reaching with my left foot, letting the left hand slide in the opposite direction as those toes, trying to get as long from toe tip to fingertip as you can. That should add a decent amount of traction stretch from the ankle, hip, low back, all the way up into that shoulder. Once we get a good 5 to 10 of those, we're going to come back to the floor, feet flat to the floor, making our big C shapes with our hands, thumbs in the back, index fingers wrapped around the front. Coming back to our crocodile breath. Nice big inhale through the nose. Nice exhale out through the mouth, feeling that navel draw all the way into the spine. At this point, you can close your eyes. Feel that inhale breath create tension, especially through that abdominal core, but also notice any tension in the shoulders and in the neck. And as you exhale, feel that tension start to release, let it go to the floor. We can take our hand, let our hands drop down to our sides with the palms up. Continue to breathe into that crocodile breath, but we just don't have our hands there. Again, notice that tension in the shoulders and the neck on the inhale, on the exhale. Allow that tension to fall to the floor. For the next few breaths, I want to start to allow that. We're still breathing into our abdominals, but we're also going to let that breath move into the ribs, chest, side, upper back, up into the shoulders and neck as well. I want to feel that same crocodile expansion, that balloon expansion, but moving into the ribs more. Again, breathing into tension on the inhale. As you exhale, allow that tension to just melt. Let it rinse off onto the floor. This is a great place to take kind of a final scan of the body and kind of notice, are there any areas that you feel tension, you feel tightness, especially if it's related to the inhale phase of your breath or the exhale phase of your breath. And if you can feel that tension, see if you can breathe into that tension lightly, not forcefully, but lightly. You can breathe into the tension of it. Exhale, see if you can feel that tension start to let go a little bit. And this can be a space that you can spend 5, 10, 15 minutes. Nice slow inhale, nice slow exhale, kind of just checking in with the body. And when you're ready, go ahead and open your eyes and very slowly get up. Take your time. Make sure you're not dizzy or lightheaded before you go from sitting up to a standing position.